I'm Dom, powered by Solopod. Episode 1, Doing the Hard Thing. Bo, what is the hard thing you keep putting off right now?
You know, for a while it was figuring out if I was ever going to get my act together and scale discipline over motivation to where it has potential to be. You know what I mean? Even somebody like me who's been grinding now for, 10 plus years on my entrepreneurial journey and putting ideas into play, and all the people that I spend my time around, like even I get, put up against a wall sometimes by myself to where I'm like, damn, like, is this really like what I want to do? Worth the time? Is this what the world, needs? What problems can I solve, right? And proud to say that in this podcast, in our first episode, Discipline Over Motivation, episode 1, the podcast that I've been wanting to start now for a long time for this brand is finally commencing. And this is a step in the right direction of taking this brand where it deserves to be and spreading the message that I started this brand because of.
So the hard thing wasn't building it. It was deciding it was worth building at all. What was the moment you stopped asking yourself that question?
I've been about this close 100 times in my life. It feels like, blowing something up, like getting something right on the verge of it becoming this big, serious, $1 million project, right? That is always something that I started from the ground up, literally, with the pennies in my back pocket. And I think that I hit that point with this brand, with discipline over motivation. I'm like, okay, like we can't just keep playing small ball and relying on the organic growth anymore. Now it's like, we're talking real investment, real time, real team members, real, maybe sharing some equity, like who knows, you know what I'm saying? And I finally was like, you know what? I can't keep doing this to myself anymore. I can't keep doing this to, the little Bo Maples that, is rooting for me right now. And the older Bo Maples, it's like, dude, what are you doing? If you would just, send it, like we'll finally get there. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say there's like some certain defining moment. It's just, of feelings and thoughts that develop over time. And, my 25 now, so my frontal lobe is finally, pretty much wrapping up. And I just came to the realization lately, like, you know what, now's the time.
You've been this close before and walked away. This time you're not walking. What's actually different? Not the age, not the frontal lobe. What changed in how you're showing up?
I think there's a lot to do with, the world right now is very like there's a lot of ways to make it and be successful and get rich, but there's not a lot of ways to do it that I personally align with, right? Like I only want to put my name, my legacy, my future kids, the people around me, like in a position to where like you're only representing like good things, right? Like things that you would do, in front of the entire world with your name and face being able to be attached to it and not being disappointed in any way possible. Like this brand is something that like, should be on every billboard, everything, you know what I mean? And my motivation and my reasoning is that like this is pure, this is good, it solves a problem, it stands for something, very positive, and it stands for something that's made me who I am today. The concept of discipline over motivation, it's been one thing I've said in my head, 1,000 times to myself before I even thought about turning it into a brand.
You believed it before you sold it. When did you first say discipline over motivation to yourself? Not as a brand, as something you needed to hear?
Obviously, growing up playing sports and, doing cool things all the time that weren't necessarily easy, and being as, venturous as I was, I'm sure I was saying it like internally or maybe in different ways, but it was really after I got out of college and I gained the freshman 30, not the freshman 15. I gained the freshman 30. And, fitness and working out was starting to become such a huge thing in our world due to TikTok and social media and that whole, compounding effect of fitness becoming just such a trend now. Like it really is just a trend, and trends fade away. So it's really now just about making sure that it's more than just a trend to you. And through that journey of learning to love fitness and care about myself and my health and what I look like, I ended up losing 50 pounds that I really needed to lose, plus gaining muscle at the same time. So really I probably lose, 60, 70 pounds of fat. And throughout that journey, every single day of getting up at, 6 a.m. when I had, no reason to, but I wanted to get up and knock my cardio out. I wanted to get up and do the Stairmaster for 90 minutes straight hoodie, sweats, a garbage bag under the hoodie, wearing a beanie in the middle of summer, 100 degrees out in Florida, walking into my gym twice a day to have a sick workout one of the times. And then the other times was just, cardio and get a massage or something like that. You know what I mean? And it was those days, that I didn't want to do those things necessary to get where I wanted to be, of saying, saying to myself over and over again, discipline over motivation. Like, if I want this, I gotta, the motivation phase was gone before I even realized it was started, and then just seeing this quote around, right? We've all heard the quote, discipline over motivation, but it's different when you're really applying it to something that you are putting your everything into, because you can say that and, be, doing something, non-significant. But when you're doing something like that, like weight loss, like that is one of the hardest things that you can do in life. You know what I mean? And, so just that saying alone, saying it to myself in my head over and over again, is what got me through that phase for sure.
You didn't find the brand. The brand found you in a sweat-soaked hoodie at 6 a.m. when nobody was watching. Here's what I want to know. The day the motivation was completely gone, what made you lace up anyway? Pounds, garbage bag under the hoodie, 6 a.m. with nowhere to be. That's not a brand origin story. That's a body that had to prove something to itself first. What were you actually running from in those early mornings?
I just wanted to look good naked. I didn't want to be fat anymore, to be honest. Like, that's why I wanted to lose the weight. I never had abs. I've always wanted to see myself with abs. I'll never forget the day that I finally got them. I just, I had a nice morning workout. It was actually on the 4th of July. It was the same day I met my wife, Maddie. I had a nice early morning workout one day before the beach. I was like, I gotta, gotta get the pump in before meeting some friends at the beach. All of a sudden, after my workout, I'm taking my daily post gym pump pictures in the Planet Fitness locker room, and all of a sudden I pick my shirt up, and I have a shredded 8 pack that morning. I literally went from 0 to 100. It was so crazy.
You didn't want to change your life. You just didn't want to be fat anymore. And that was enough to build something real on. What does that tell you about motivation as a starting point?
Motivation will always be, very fun and very cool, and something that you should take advantage of. The reason for me building the brand discipline over motivation is not to say like, oh, you can't be motivated or can't, be excited or capitalize on it. I love capitalizing on, whiffs of motivation. And as you get older and as you do more and more projects and things throughout your life and accomplish more hard things, you realize that when you get that motivation, if you could just really use it right and hit the ground running and make that extra like honeymoon phase of progress where everything is good and fun and easy, that is the best. When you get motivation, you should be full sending during that period of time. And then, knowing in the back of your head though, when that motivation finally runs out, which it absolutely will, that's when you have to ignite and rely on that discipline, right? Like, how strong are you up here? I don't care, how social media sees you, and who you're looking to uphold this standard to. But if you can't do it to yourself, if you can't be actually truly disciplined up here, then you have nothing.
Motivation is the spark. Discipline is what you built after the spark died. So what's the hardest stretch you've had with Dom where there was no spark left and you showed up anyway?
There's been a couple of those times since I started the brand where it was like, man, like there was certainly no motivation, and even my discipline ability was wearing thin, because I am pretty, honestly spread thin through a couple different projects going on in my life, and I'm working on kind of realigning all those at the moment. But, a couple of times that I didn't know what I was doing or what I would do next with Dom was just, after situations like when I would bring like a part-time guy or employee or helper into the brand, right? And then they'd be, killing it for a month or two. And then, there's always a point where like somebody doesn't want to work anymore. You know what I mean? Because it's just too hard. You know what I mean? These guys have now put in 3% of what I have, and now they're already quitting. And it's like, dude, like we can make this ours together. Like I've been so good since I have had this brand about like getting other people involved and trying to make it something bigger than myself, like internally. Obviously externally it is, but just going on terms of internally. And then people are just lazy, bro. People just quit. People just, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm not maybe the best or most experienced in like operating like a real team, because it's different. Like, when I say operating a team, like I'm not talking about being the captain of a sports team. Like that's different. Or the captain of a hobby or whatever, right? That you're running, even a household. But operating a business truly when finances are involved, because that's when everybody gets in their feelings and get likes to get weird, especially when people don't like they aren't bought into the long-term vision truly and what it can be, which is aka the reason that I'm even trying to get people involved. Then it's like, people get weird and it's, not necessarily fun anymore. So I would say the biggest blocker and biggest, like, I guess, issue I've had with discipline over motivation and had to be resilient and push through is those situations of getting other people involved in the brand. Things like staying up late to edit or doing another photo shoot and, paying for drops and designing stuff and doing the back end, whatever, like that's cool, but that's just part of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm immune to, the quantity of work at this point.
The work doesn't break you. People do. And every time someone quits, you're back to one. What does that keep costing you that you haven't said out loud yet?
It's a really good question, honestly. What does that keep costing you that I haven't said out loud with? Honestly, my ability to freaking, I don't know, honestly.
Take your time. Finish that sentence.
I've just made a lot of mistakes in, maybe, not hiring or getting the right people involved. You know what I mean? I have a real knack for like wanting, to show people like how to be successful or how they can change their life or like give somebody purpose if I know they feel like they have none. And so that's when I like have always been one to extend invitation to people and try to give people a reason to do something fun. Like, and it's always too, like I do my research on these people in terms of like, do they think something like this would be cool? The answer is always yes. So then they say yes, obviously. But then at some point I realized why they weren't this ambitious, person to go out and start something like this or get involved in something like this already. Like, why does it take me, linking up with somebody that's 24 years old to try to get them involved, with something like this? And then when it doesn't work out, I have to, I end up being surprised or shocked, but then I realize that like these people are usually, not gear, not capable of doing, something like this anyways.
You keep picking people you want to save instead of people who can carry weight. That's not a hiring problem, that's a you problem. So, who does Dom actually need in the room that you haven't been willing to go find yet?
I mean, for starters, I just, I could say I need like people that just want to see it grow in a way to where like they can be selfless and in the helping process of doing that. Like if I could duplicate myself 5 times and then like each of those 5 versions of me specialize in one of the things that I know how to do, oh my gosh, like we'd be cooking. You know what I mean? So I need to find somebody that is like, I am a jack of all trades. I need to find 5 different guys that are insane at one thing and get us all together. That'll be like how this brand finally, lifts off.
5 specialists who each own one thing completely. Got it. Here's the harder question. You said you keep picking people you want to save. So when the right person walks in, how will you know you're not doing it again?
Just got to have a good vetting process. You know what I mean? Somebody too with responsibility. I realize that's a big thing. Like when hiring, like if they don't have, a house, a car, a family, or like a significant other to provide for, if they don't have like true purpose and a reason to be responsible for it, like an income or a project, then it's like their reason to leave something can be so small.
So the stakes in their personal life predict how hard they'll work in yours. Let's talk about what you've actually built while you've been doing this alone. What's the one thing Dom has put out that you're genuinely proud of? Not the thing that sold best, the thing that meant something?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, but I would say the first one is mesh pants. Like it's not every day that a clothing company can come out with something completely new that nobody's ever done. Our mesh pants that we came out with are completely unique. Nobody's ever done them, let alone done designs. You know what I mean? You guys have all seen like designed mesh shorts with crazy XYZ designs on them, but these are mesh pants. Nobody's ever done those, and we're the first. We have I think 9 different patterns that we've come out with so far, and we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue coming out with these every couple weeks, couple months, a new drop. And so I would say that's the thing I'm proudest of. Aside from that, honestly, it happens to be this crew neck I'm wearing right here. Thick, huge, baggy, beautiful colors. Like everybody I know, like personally, that bought one of these is still wearing the heck out of this to this day. And this dropped like almost 2 years ago now.
First of their kind, 9 patterns, and you built that from scratch. What did it cost to get the first pair right?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if you mean like financially cost it or like mentally and emotionally, but I can answer both. So financially, it cost $350 or $360 to get the first sample created. Granted, we did sample like four variations on the first round, so 360 divided by four, and because they have to ship from our manufacturers across the globe. And between the four, we basically merged them, different things that I liked about them all together, and then had to basically say, hey, make sure we, do this so we don't have to buy a new sample, and trust that that one thing was going to be right when we got the pants delivered. Luckily, it was. So that was cool. And then the first drop cost just over $10,000, or no, just under $10,000 for the first drop.
Under 10K, and you were betting on something nobody had ever made before. What was going through your head when that first shipment landed?
Because the fact that nobody else has done that idea is already good enough. And I know myself, I trust myself enough, I trust this brand enough, I trust our community enough, I trust my vision enough, I trust the Lord enough that this brand is going to work and that product is going to work. You know what I mean? I can't rightfully say like I've put like my 100% all into like making sure the stock is completely gone and sold out. It's basically been ever since I've had those mesh pants, and I'm like, crap, like like, do I want this to blow up? Because there's a big thing, there's very wrong things that can happen to your brand if you blow up too quickly, or at the wrong time too quickly, because then you run into a stock problem, then you have to wait however long to get the new stuff, and then the hype that you had attracted all at once is now like just sitting there with nothing else to buy. You know what I mean? So you got to be very, very careful what you wish for with a small startup clothing brand like this.
You're deliberately holding back on a product you know could blow up because the timing has to be right. That's not caution, that's strategy. Here's the steel man, though. You're one guy in Edgewater with a product nobody's copied yet, but they will. So why should anyone believe you'll scale this before someone with real money gets there first?
That's a humbling question that I'm gonna go think about and not be able to sleep because of tonight. Thank you.
Good, so think out loud right now. What's the real answer?
I just got to be better, man. I got to be more disciplined. That's really just what it comes down to. I got to be better. I got to, do what God has given me the opportunity to do, what we've already started, but then I bitch out a little bit and not know what I'm doing and don't trust myself enough. I was talking to a very, very big entrepreneur literally 2 days ago. And I asked, I was talking to him about my situation and where I'm at. Somebody I have a lot of respect for. He's a good friend of mine. And he told me, he said, Bo, you're not going to know how to do it. Okay. You haven't done it. So how are you going to know how to do it? You need to get a mentor that knows how to do it, that can get you where you want to be and pay them whatever the heck they charge. And I was like, I didn't want you to tell me that, but you're right. And I'm going to do it because apparently I just needed to hear it that, forward and transparent. Like,
You already know the answer, and you've been avoiding paying for it. Next one. Where's Dom in 12 months? No rounding up.
so I would say in the next 12 months, what it looks like is we'll be, let's see, it's middle of July right now. We'll probably be placing an order for our Black Friday drop, is what I'm thinking. By then, we're going to have at least 5 big name influencers and, influencing for the brand across different niches. I'm envisioning expansion into the outdoor industry, lots of different mesh pants, lots of different hats, some really good zip ups, and a couple new products that nobody's ever done. I want socks, I want beanies, I want lots of like cool and unique stuff. In terms of product and, that's what I'm thinking. Social media, I want at least 100,000 followers between TikTok and Instagram, if not more. Right now, that number is currently 20,000 combined. And then let's see, what else? Maybe probably 2 other full time guys, myself and 2 full time guys.
20 followers to 100K, one guy to 3, and a Black Friday drop. That's a 5 times jump in every direction at once. Which one of those breaks first if you don't get the mentor?
I won't get there without the mentor.
So everything else on that list is dependent on one decision you already know you need to make. When are you making it?
Should be this week. I'm gonna be trying to get hooked up with Dom Iacovone, the owner of Raw Nutrition, and he has a wide array of brands that he owns or has seats at, and he is just, oh my gosh, I've been front seat to his journey. I've been following him since before Raw, like since the first day of Raw. Like I came across him, I'm pretty sure, and have been following him ever since. His story, I used to not like think he was very significant. Okay, I'm gonna be completely transparent when I say this. I thought for a time that Raw Nutrition and their growth was completely dependent on Sebum as a face of the brand. And while that is a big leverage point, yes, I was never like a hater or like a hate watcher of the brand at all. At all. I actually Dom gave me a short internship opportunity at Raw Nutrition back in 2022, I think. And he was super nice, super great guy. Like he had no reason to say yes to me, and he let me. And I went and worked there at the office a little bit for a couple of weeks. So I decided it just wasn't for me anymore. But the thing is with Dom is he is extremely smart. And everybody knows it now because he started publicizing his personal brand and having a cameraman following him around all day, every freaking day, it seems like. And he talks about what he does. He doesn't hardly hide anything. And you just know with him, like when you're seeing his content, you're like, this guy is legit. This guy, he is now my favorite entrepreneur of all time that I've ever seen, met, heard of, anything. Like he is at the top of my list. I used to think some other, guys on the internet were cool. I don't think any of them hold a candle to this guy now. Like he is legit, and he's the only person I would trust, spending time and money on.
You already have a relationship with him. Stop talking about it and go make the call. What's the ultimate version of Dom if nothing gets in the way?
I think discipline over motivation can be a pinnacle worldwide brand. I don't think that the world has many of those. I think Gymshark is like the closest thing I can think of like it's a truly worldwide successful brand. I think Kith is up there as well. I think Young LA had the opportunity to be one of those brands, and they really closed themselves off with some moves they've made recently. Just outsider looking in, opinionated stuff. I could be completely wrong on that, but I think because of the name, because of the meaning, and because of the versatility of the aesthetic that we'll be able to provide, and not niching down too much and just making it big enough to where it can capably take over every industry and every niche on the planet while still being exactly what it is. The only thing it cares about is the concept of discipline over motivation. And that's why I started this brand. You don't have to niche down. If somebody ever tells me to niche down, I'm gonna tell them, yeah, you get out of my ear. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to niche down with this brand because discipline over motivation and its concept applies to every single area of life. There's not a niche, not a hobby, not a sport, not a job, not a task, not a role, not a nothing that you can't apply the concept of this brand to, because to be great at anything, you have to understand the concept of discipline over motivation. You have to understand what doing the hard things is like.
Gymshark built a brand. You want to build a standard that every industry has to measure itself against. That's a bigger swing. Here's the real question. You're 25, you're spread thin, you just admitted you need a mentor, you haven't called yet. What makes you think you're the guy who actually gets there and not just another founder who believed it hard enough?
I don't I've never heard somebody speak the way I do. And I've never heard somebody be quiet and listen the way I do as well. And I know that can sound like counterintuitive, but I just know, like, I have that true main character energy, and I'm him, and I've proven to myself over and over and over again that I am him. And that, there's been so many people across my journey that I'm like, oh, that guy's him, or he's way smarter than me. Come to find out, I'm 10 times, smarter than that person is. Like, oh, like every single time. You know what I mean? Like, people, I don't do get rich quick. I don't do nothing. Like, I am strictly long-term play. I understand what I'm doing is going to take a long time. And I just know, like, I truly, know that God has put this opportunity in front of me, and it's mine to go get it. And the thing is I'm also not salty if I don't accomplish the massive, massive things that I think I'm going to, and I'm going to strive for. Because here's the thing, not only is it a, you reach for the stars, land on the moon type of, scenario, or reach for the moon, land on the stars, whatever it is. And but I also know that, like, God's gonna be there, God's gonna provide. I'm gonna live a great life because of how much I value my relationship with the Lord, and how much I know He's there for me, and how much I know that my success, whether it measures very tiny or very large, I will give it all to Him. I always will. And that is my goal, to teach my family along the way. Just put in some some effort, some purpose into something, make it something that, God would approve of. And I think just the like for me, there's no like, if I don't accomplish this, then I feel like a failure. My accomplishment is being able to know that I can get up every day and have the opportunity to chase something.
You're not afraid to fail because the chase itself is the proof. That's the whole brand in one sentence. Bo, last question. What's the hard thing you're doing tomorrow?
The hard thing I'm doing tomorrow is we're actually about to take a family road trip, our first ever road trip with me and my wife, and we'll also have Juniper with us. We're so excited. It's just going to be us three. We are going to start by heading up to Georgia. The final destination will be Nashville, Tennessee, but first we're going to stop in Tifton, Georgia, where I went to college at a school called Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. I went for not even one full semester before I dropped out, but I loved the college. I loved the campus. I love the people. I love everything about that area. And I love Georgia. And I highly recommend that college to many people. And I hope one day I get the opportunity to speak there on every, thing about me and my life, the things I've learned. And, even though I didn't graduate there, nor do one semester, love the college. And, after that, we're going to be heading to Sonoya, Georgia. We're going to see some Walking Dead and Stranger Things filming locations. I'm super excited about that. I'm a big TV show guy, geeky nerd guy, especially over The Walking Dead. And then we're going to be staying at the Atlanta at the Battery Hotel. And we are going to do the Georgia Aquarium. And then Monday, we'll see a Braves game versus, I think it's the Padres. And then after that, we will be heading to Pigeon Forge for a couple nights, staying in a cabin, and then ending it off in Nashville for a couple nights for a work event for another business. And then we'll be, driving back home after that. It'll be a nice 9-day trip. So super excited about that. And I'm super excited just to think about, this whole trip. I will be working, pretty minimally, but I will be very intentional with my driving time and just, the peace that I soak in and thinking about, the realignment of this brand and some other aspects of my life and putting them into play and putting my money where the mouth is.
You're taking a road trip and calling it rest, but you just described 9 days of thinking about the brand. The hard thing tomorrow isn't the drive. It's being present with Maddie and Juniper while your brain is already in Nashville working. Can you actually do that? You're taking 9 days to be a husband, be a dad, and think. For a guy who just said he needs to stop playing small ball, that's not a vacation. That's fuel. This whole episode, you talked about discipline, and the hard thing tomorrow is slowing down. Don't waste the quiet. Come back ready to make that call. Bo, appreciate you. Episode 1 is done.
Thank you very much, Solo Pod. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all you guys watching. This is the Discipline Over Motivation podcast officially. This is episode 1. This is a podcast built off of my clothing brand, Discipline Over Motivation, that I started in August of 2020, 2024. And we do clothing drops every couple weeks. And we have a new drop coming very, very soon. By the next podcast, I should have a date announcement for that. So if you're interested in anything you see now, feel free to head over there, discipline-over-motivation. You can use code podcast, and that'll get you a discount on all the stuff we have to offer over there as well. So thank you guys very much. And any episodes, topics, or anything like that you want us to go over in the future, I would love for you to leave a comment, and we'll get it rolling.
You started this episode asking if Dom was worth building. You ended it knowing the only thing in the way is you. That's the whole show in one sentence. Go make that call this week. We'll see you next episode.